It's game week 6 and I am on a wild card. But who will make the final draft? Will it be a DEFCON monster this week? And is 5.7 million Reinders just too cheap to ignore? It's time to lock in for my team for FPL game week 6. Hello and welcome to FPL Mate. My name is Dan. A quick look at my Game Week 5 scores because I'm sure most people are here to see the Game Week 6 wildcard team. So very quickly, no chip used and a green arrow regardless. So not too much concern there. Only a little green arrow. But obviously there's a few players really letting the side down. No shade on the Aston Villa players, but yeah, I think we know who the problem is here. But guys, I'm still not too worried about rank at this point. I'm only around 20 points away from the top 1 million, maybe 30 points from top 500k. It is going to be very easy to move up the ranks from this point, particularly as I have not played any chips yet, and I know a lot of people have. So we've got big moves to make with the wildcard this week, and I think things are going to be a-okay. By the way, guys, if you do enjoy this video, do drop a like. It is massively appreciated, and do make sure you subscribe if you want to be in for a chance of winning a copy of FC26. Yes, we will be giving away a copy of FC26, the new game, this Saturday. So only subscribers are going to be eligible for that giveaway. So make sure you hit that button and yeah, hopefully you can win. And here it is, guys. My Game Week 6 wildcard team. We have got 1.2 million in the bank in this team. I may choose to make a last minute upgrade before the deadline, but right now I'm kind of happy with the team without spending all of my budget. So let me know what you think, whether there's any players you think I should upgrade. I will go through some of my options here as well, but let's start off in goal, and we have got Raya. No change here from the last draft. I think every draft I have made has had the same two goalkeepers, Raya and Dubravka, and looking through Arsenal and some of their defensive record of recent game weeks, despite some difficult fixtures, they are currently second for non-penalty expected goals against, and I think at 5.5 or maybe 5.6 million, Raya is going to be a really useful player to have to get into that Arsenal defense in a very cheap way. So that's what I like about Raya. Get that nailed on Arsenal defensive asset with the long-term fixtures looking, well, maybe not long-term, but certainly medium-term. 5, 6, 7 game weeks look really good for Arsenal now, all the way up until around game week 12, 13, where maybe we can think about switching off some Arsenal players. But with Raya, I want a good goalkeeper who can keep a clean sheet even in the tough games for the very long term. And that's what Raya provides. Hopefully, I won't need to make a goalkeeper change for months and months and months with this guy in goal. Just that sensible, that secure. Now, going into the defense, we've doubled up on the Arsenal defense with Gabriel. I think I do prefer Gabriel to Saliba. But what I want to do, guys, I want to throw on screen some of these stats from all of the defenders that I've been looking at. And there's 20 different defenders here. I like all of these in their own way, but obviously some I prefer to others, which we are going to include in the final wildcard team. You can see that Gabriel is pretty low on this list for defensive contributions because this is what I have ordered this by. C-bits, defensive contributions among defenders, and we see Gabriel pretty low, but he's not really too different to Saliba here. And what I like about Gabriel is he has better attacking threat from those set pieces, and we have West Ham next week for Arsenal, which is a huge game for those corner goals, essentially, that we see that the West Ham are really weak in the corners. So I think Gabriel is going to be very useful for that. But we need to pick some other defenders as well around Gabriel. So we've got our maybe expensive premium defender. Who else do we go for? Who else looks good on this list? Well, we've got the likes of Senesi, Mukiele, Tarkovsky, Virgil, Anderson, Alderete, Richards, maybe Tosin and Chalobah, all looking really good. All of these players are averaging over 10 defensive contributions per game, which is really nice. This is per start, by the way, guys, just to confirm that. So all of these players really standing out to me, and maybe some players maybe not as appealing as maybe we previously thought. Lacroix a little bit lower than Richards, so it doesn't make as much sense to go for Lacroix anymore. We've got Mark Gahey really low on this list, and players like Goodmanson and Van der Ven, who I was previously considering for the wild card because they are so low compared to some of these other players on the defensive contribution front. I think I might actually swerve these players and actually not go for them at all. But feel free to take a pause of the video and have a look through through this list to get a order of all of the interesting defenders right now in the game of FPL, but certainly we need to be picking at least some of the players at the top of this list if we want to get the defensive contributions. So let's have a look at my team. Let's go and pick some more defenders. So we are going to go for Romero. I really like these Spurs fixtures coming up next. I think there is clean sheet opportunity here, and Spurs, they have, in fairness, kept a few clean sheets so far this season. They have been overperforming a little bit in that regard, but teams like Wolves, Leeds, and Aston Villa have been some of the worst attacks in the Premier League so far this season. So it could be pretty easy clean sheet points here. I also really like Romero for his bonus point potential, his, I guess, defensive contributions. When you compare him to the other Spurs players, he is at the top spot there, most likely to get defensive contributions, which we've seen a couple of times now this season. And I also think he has the best goal threat of any Spurs defender. He seems right now to have more goal threat than Pedro Porro, who is no longer going to be on set pieces with Xavi Simons taking his share. And Romero is the target man from the set pieces. So I know Van de Ven technically, maybe got more attacking points so far this season, but looking over long-term previous season data, Romero is certainly the more attacking threat guy. So he ticks all of the boxes when it comes to Spurs defenders specifically. So if you want a Spurs defender, I really do like Romero the most out of all of them. And the third defender in my team is obviously going to be Senesi. Yeah, an absolute no-brainer pick here. And if you're on a wild card, I really don't see a world in which you wouldn't pick Senesi. He's just doing so well for those defensive contributions, averaging 13 per game so far this season. It's absolutely crazy numbers, and it doesn't look like it's going to slow down either. We've got some nice fixtures, so we're going to see some clean sheets, as Bournemouth have already been one of the top defenses in the Premier League so far this season. And also we're going to see hopefully bonus points, defensive contributions, and I think he has a little bit of attacking threat as well. We have seen in, a couple of seasons ago, he got 5 goals and 5 assists in a Premier League season whilst playing for Bournemouth. That was a couple of years ago, but if he can recapture some of that attacking form, he is going to basically tick every single box when it comes to a cheap defender. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those box-ticking players in FPL, and Senesi is certainly providing that. Let's move on into the midfield next. We have got Bruno Fernandes, who has maybe dipped in popularity a little bit over the course of the season. But I think he may be back after that goal in game week 5 against Chelsea. I think people might be more interested in him again. We know he's good for defensive contributions. We know he's on set pieces. We know he's on penalties. Is he good value for money at 9 million? I'm not so sure about that, but what he is a really nice placeholder for maybe a switch in the future. You know, if you want to move to a Palmer, you want to move to a Saka or a Salah, maybe back into Salah, maybe Florian Wirtz recaptures his form, or maybe there is another, 7 to 8, 9 million midfielder that is looking really good, maybe Phil Foden, for example. Then you have Fernandes that you can easily either drop down or upgrade to another midfielder that looks really good. So he's a nice placeholder, he's a nice cash cow, and he provides kind of fairly consistent and reliable points until a time you do want to make the switch. So whilst he has got a few good fixtures here, we've got Brentford, Sunderland, and Brighton in the next 4. I think this is a really nice time to just have a secure Bruno in your team. He's like a safety blanket type player. You don't need to worry about him too much. But there are some other midfielders I like. Let's go through this list of kind of midfielders so far this season for expected goal involvements per start. Bruno is on top of this list, but that is largely because he has had 2 penalties that he's taken already. So that is going to be a big part of that. But it is also interesting that he is number 1 for key passes. So creating a lot. He just needs his teammates to finish maybe a few more chances. And he is taking other shots as well. It's not just penalties that he provides. Going down the list, and I have ticked a few players, you can see with the little tick mark, the blue check mark, next to some of these players who I do like the look of. And Burmo is a nice differential if you don't want to go for Bruno. Obviously, Semenyo is going to be in here as well. Anthony, I really like. In terms of some of those other midfielders around the mid-price, we've got the likes of Enzo, we've got Minter, we've got Njai and Kudus, maybe a little bit lower on this list as well. And we've got some cheap guys here like Minter, Dewsbury Hall, and Paqueta. And these are pretty much the players I am primarily looking at. There are some other players as well, I guess, but certainly, I think the majority of your midfield, maybe 3, 4 out of your 5 midfielders, are going to be comprised of these players who are kind of checked on screen here, guys. And you can see that they are some of the higher players for goal involvements. This list is the 20 highest players for expected goal involvement so far this season. There are going to be some other players who are interesting, but Certainly, if we're looking for nailed-on, reliable players who maybe sway more towards XG rather than XA in their expected goal involvements, these are the kind of guys I am really strongly looking at right now. So let's throw a few of them on my pitch. We've got Semenyo, of course, against Leeds. Really nice fixture. Don't love the Fulham and Crystal Palace fixture after that, but we've got Nottingham Forest there as well. I just think overall Semenyo has just been in such phenomenal form. It's really only Haaland that is showing better form, better attacking threat, particularly in open play, than Semenyo right now. So he's pretty much a no-brainer pick, and you're buying into a great fixture in Leeds. I've gone for Kudus here as well for this Wolves at home fixture, and it really was a big debate between, I guess, Kudus and Njai, and I know some people will be debating that one all the way until deadline. I have switched about between the two players. Currently, I am on Kudus. Been trying to find a way of kind of deciding which one I prefer of the two. The way I've kind of decided to go for Kudus for now is the fact that Kudus is not going to be going to AFCON. And actually in my team, there are no players going to AFCON. So even though Semenyo and Kudus, they are both from Ghana. Ghana did not qualify for the African Cup of Nations that is going to take place in well, not so long now, only a couple of months away. And if we're thinking about maybe holding some of these players for the long term, then, you know, it's one less headache, really, isn't it? And sometimes when you are really tight between two players, which one to pick and which one to maybe leave out of your team, you need to make a decision. You sometimes have to find some other ways of making that decision. So that's the way I've come up with right now. But honestly, I'm looking at these next three fixtures for Spurs, in particular for an attacker, and I'm just thinking, wow, this is such an opportunity. I don't want to go for Richarlison because I'm worried about his minutes in the future. I don't want to go for Simmons because I'm a little bit worried about his minutes in the present and his price, to be fair. So that kind of landed me on Kudus, to be honest, as the pick to go for. So this is where I'm at right now. Kudus as my next midfielder, and our final midfielder right now is Reinders. And again, I could upgrade Reinders to one of Njai or Enzo. I do have the money in the bank to do that, and I am strongly considering doing it. But I think Reinders at 5.6 million is just such good value for money, with Burnley at home next, then Brentford and Everton and Aston Villa. Man City have some amazing fixtures, and obviously Haaland is going to be in my team. Like, let's not beat around the bush there. Am I happy enough just having one Man City attacker for this run of fixtures? Honestly, the answer is no, and that's kind of led me towards going for Reinders because I don't really love Foden. I think he is a player who worries me too much with rotation, with form. I don't know if he can sustain anything that he does, and he's quite expensive. Doku rotation risk. Reinders really looks like the next most nailed on Man City, more attacking asset right now. And he is so cheap, so it's lower risk. So we can kind of maybe use our bench option instead of Reinders if we need to. And I think just for that reason, Reinders finds his way into this team. But again, I would love to have Njai. I would love to have Enzo whilst Palmer is unavailable as well. So that is still something to strongly consider. Currently with Kudus and Reinders, but this could switch to any of Kudus, Reinders, Njai, or Enzo, as I mentioned before, who looks really good when Palmer is not on the pitch, playing in an attacking midfield position on penalties, because we don't have penalty takers in these final two positions in midfield, and that does worry me just a little bit. So maybe something to consider. We'll see how that ends up, guys. I think all four of those players I've just mentioned are really, really strong FPL assets, though. So no shade on any of them. They're all definitely players that I could go for. Right now, with Kudus, Reinders. Let's see if this switches up. But I mean, I've been on these players for a couple of days, so they probably will stick around. Let's go to the forward position. It's really, really obvious here. For me, Haaland is going to be in this team. I know he has some back issues, apparently, but look, he's had these back issues since before the Arsenal game, and he managed to play that Arsenal game. He got a full rest in the midweek, stayed at home for the League Cup game, and hopefully he is going to be back and playing against Burnley. But considering I'm on a wild card and not a triple captain, if Haaland did get an early sub against Burnley, or, you know, maybe somehow he is rested against Burnley and maybe just plays a few minutes at the end, that is not the end of the world for me. Because I feel like if you are not triple captaining Haaland this week, you are probably going to want him to blank. You're probably going to be betting against him. It's going to be a frustrating one because, yeah, those who with Haaland triple captain, if he does well, then, you know, that's going to make the wildcard teams with no triple captain Haaland actually look a little bit foolish, and I don't really want that to happen. So it's a strange one with Haaland this week, but what I definitely do know is that I want him in future game weeks. So if you're on a wild card, you're aware that Haaland, if he does have an injury, which even that is in contention a little bit of if he really does have an injury or whether he's just carrying a little bit of a back issue and a little bit of fatigue, which I think is more likely. He's still a player you want in the long term. You know that injury is not serious. You know it's not a big deal. In the future, you're going to want the player. Just get him in now. Have some bench cover just in case. And you can't really lose on that one. The only way you can lose is if he does really well and you haven't triple captained him. So there you go. Joao Pedro is obviously going to be in this team as well. He's provided really good value for money, and I've actually got a bit of money tied up in him now since I had him from Game Week 1 at 7.5 million. So yeah, nice to have him. I think certainly when the fixtures look really good, and I think really with Chelsea, outside of that Liverpool game, the fixtures are incredible for Chelsea. So just going through the fixtures after well, I guess after what you can see on screen now, guys. So we've got obviously Liverpool, Forest, Sunderland. But after that, we've got Spurs, Wolves at home, Burnley. We've got Arsenal in Game Week 13. But then we've got Leeds in Game Week 14. So that's all 3 newly promoted teams in the next 8 game weeks, which is really, really nice for your Chelsea assets, which is why I want Joao Pedro. And it's why I'm not even satisfied with that. It's why I kind of want Enzo Fernandez as well. Something to consider. I just don't know if I can sacrifice the likes of Kudus. I think there's definitely an opportunity to move Kudus over to an Enzo later, or maybe do a double switch with Bruno and Kudus to Palmer, and maybe downgrade Kudus a little bit, maybe to a Minter or someone like that, someone around 6 million. That could definitely work. Or downgrade Romero, which is another something that I would like to talk about later on in the video when I show you this team week by week, how this looks for chip strategy, what transfers in the future we are looking to make, because there's lots of options and lots of little pathways that I quite like the look of with this team, which is why I am picking it. But our final forward is going to be Gyökeres. Difficult game away against Newcastle this week, but that West Ham at home game I just think is absolutely amazing. And generally speaking, I know I am an Arsenal fan, but I do have trust in Arsenal generally. And look, it's a lot of people are going to be debating Gyökeres versus Saka. I'm team Gyökeres right now. I do prefer to go for Gyökeres in the FPL team. I think Saka is going to be a decent FPL asset, but I think Gyökeres right now is better for minutes. I think Gyökeres is more likely to get penalties, and while Saka is fantastic creatively, we're seeing Gyökeres get on the end of a lot of top quality chances at the moment, and certainly in some of the easier fixtures coming up for Arsenal, he will have the opportunity to capitalize on that. We also probably have the impression that Gyökeres is going to get better and better with each game week. Remember, he's new to the Premier League. Okay, technically he played for Brighton years and years ago, but he's new to playing regularly in the Premier League after, years away from English football. So we certainly expect him to, improve as time goes by, Arsenal to gel a little bit more, get that link up with Eze going, and things will get better and better for him. And if the fixtures are getting better as well, then everything hopefully will come together for Gyökeres. We'll go to the bench next, guys. We have, actually, before we go to the bench, I'll change my mind. Let's have a look at some stats for the forwards as well, so you can kind of see the justification for these 3 forwards, and maybe why you're seeing these 3 forwards in so many wildcard teams right now. I'm sure some of you guys maybe have looked at a few different drafts at this point. But yeah, obviously Haaland is going to be in here. We're looking at the non-penalty expected goals. He is right at the top with 6.2. Second place Beto is a third of that, just for reference, which is crazy. But we're looking down this list. We've got Beto, Wood, Mateta, Ekitike, and Richarlison. And I would say outside of Mateta, who has pretty rough fixtures, all of these players have some degree of rotation risk. I don't think Beto is 100% nailed. I think Wood is definitely going to be maybe rotation risk very, very soon, if not this game week. We see Ekitike suspended. We've got Isak coming into Liverpool, and Richarlison looks great for the short term, but I do worry about him in the slightly longer term. If I'm on a free hit, I probably choose Richarlison, but for a wild card, not so much. So that brings us to the next 2 players on this list, and that's Gyökeres and Joao Pedro, who both put up some decent non-penalty XG numbers. Of course, Joao Pedro offering a little more creatively as well, I suppose. And Gyökeres is hopefully going to be a penalty taker, so he should even improve on these numbers. We know he's a very good finisher as well, of course, so hopefully he should be able to outperform his numbers, which I would very much enjoy. Going to the bench, guys, we have got Dubravka, as we mentioned, the obvious 4 million goalkeeper, and very good for a bench boost in Game Week 8, where he faces Leeds at home. But on the other end of that, we have got Stack, who is currently my 5 million, or I guess cheap midfielder. There's a few options in this cheap midfielder category, and I'm leaning towards Stack the most at the moment. We also have Dewsbury Hall. If you're bench boosting in Game Week 8, be aware that Dewsbury Hall will be playing against Man City. There'll be no Grealish in that match as well, so Everton will be a little bit weaker actually in that fixture, which is something to be aware of, and maybe why Dewsbury Hall isn't as strong for a 5 million midfielder if you're looking to bench boost in Game Week 5. And we also have Granit Xhaka here, a little bit lower down on the list. Now, this is ordered by XGI, so expected goal involvement. Dewsbury Hall slightly higher than Stack, but what we see from Stack is that his volume of shots and his volume of his same volume of key passes, but a higher volume of shots here. 11 shots, that is the most of any 5 million midfielder. It's pretty nice, and I think the fact that Stack is on all corners, or most corners, all free kicks, direct free kicks at least, that is a real big appeal. So you're going to get a lot of set pieces from Stack, which is always that opportunity to get points. And looking at defensive contributions as well, we do see that Stack is vastly superior to Dewsbury Hall. Stack, really, so far this season, we've seen him be a little bit of a mixed bag for defensive contributions, but the pattern seems to be he got, let me find the exact numbers. So he got 13 defensive contributions against Everton in Game Week 1. Then in Game Week 2, 3, and 4 against Arsenal, Newcastle, and Fulham, it was a little bit lower, around 4 to 6 in each game. And then against Wolves, he got an enormous 15. So I do wonder, home game against Everton, away game against Wolves, and in between that, some pretty tough fixtures. Is Stack the kind of player who actually gets defensive contributions in the easier fixtures? And as such, Burnley in Game Week 8, where I'll be looking to bench boost him. We've got West Ham in Game Week 9 as well at home, which is a possibility to play him there. Are these the kind of fixtures where actually he's going to get the defensive contributions and as well as all of his set piece potential? Could this be the kind of week where he scores very big? Indeed, we already saw it in Game Week 5 where he scored big through those set pieces, through those defensive contributions. Can he do it again in Game Week 8? And that is what I am looking for really with Stack. He is there as a really nice player for a bench boost, and that is exactly what he provides. But again, we have money in the bank. We could maybe move Stack up to a 6.2 million kind of midfielder. Again, I'd probably be looking at Minter there, to be honest. But maybe the 1.2 million in the bank can be served better elsewhere, because with my other defenders, this team doesn't have to play 4 in midfield. It doesn't have to play 5 in midfield, certainly. This team often sets up really well for a 4-3-3. So some weeks it's going to be a 3-4-3, other weeks it's going to be a 4-3-3, depending on the fixtures, most likely. And that's because of players like Richards, who is a really nice 4.5 million defender. We already spoke about him as, really nice for defensive contributions. Crystal Palace, a top defense. And I think Richards is going to show his attacking potential in the Premier League soon. It will happen, guys, trust me. Alderete, also my 4 million defender of choice. Do prefer him to Mukiele. I think there's a good chance the Mukiele starts to play in a fullback position in the very near future. I don't know when that's going to be. Could even be this game week, to be honest. But if Mukiele, despite his amazing DEFCON points, if he does move to a fullback position, he is going to get less DEFCON points from those kind of areas. And Alderete looks nailed on as the left centre-back for Sunderland right now, who have been impressive so far defensively. So I think Alderete is far less risky than Mukiele. And of course, I do prefer the Sunderland defense to Leeds, to Burnley. So Alderete looking like playing for a better defense and putting up better defensive contribution numbers. I think there is a lot to like about him right now, and that is why I'm going for him. One more note, I suppose, no AFCON for any of my bench defenders, or bench players either. So no AFCON players in this entire team, which means when we get the additional free transfers, up to 5 free transfers when AFCON starts, well, I'll be able to use them on whatever I want. I won't have to focus them on AFCON players. I can basically treat it like a mini wildcard and deal with any issues that I have in my team when we come to that point. So it's really nice to have that flexibility going into the future as well. So this is what the team is looking like right now. I do want to show you the play-by-play for this team, the transfer options, the chip strategy options with this team, and show you why I feel it is so strong and so versatile going into the future, because yeah, I think these are really important factors when using a wild card, I suppose. So we are on the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool. All of the Opta stats you've seen in today's video are all from Fantasy Football Hub. So if you'd like to check it out and get a 50% off on your subscription, do use the link in the description. It does help out the channel a whole bunch. My team is rated 100%, and that is not the be-all and end-all to get a perfect 100% team rating, but certainly if you do have a 100% team rating, that does show you that your team is stats backed. It is backed by the data, which is something that is nice to know. This team also has a 99% team rating for Game Week 6 specifically, which means it should be able to compete with a lot of the free hit teams. So we should be on for a instantaneous returns from the wildcard team, which is I'm really hoping for a nice instantaneous rank boost. But let's go week by week. In Game Week 7, we will probably look exactly the same as in Game Week 6. No changes to the starting 11 as the team looks something a little bit like this. There's maybe an option to play Richards here instead of one of these players. But I'm not really sure who. Would we be benching Joao Pedro for Richards? Maybe. Possibility. Not really sure. I guess we'll wait that out and see how that plays out. Going into Game Week 8. Now, this is a bench boost week. You can see on this week, the bench looks really strong. So we'll have Dubravka at home against Leeds, Alderete at home against Wolves, Senesi away against Crystal Palace, and Stack away against Burnley. So all players, really nice fixtures, and they're cheap players as well. So it's not like you have ruined your team structure for the sake of a good bench boost, which I really, really like. Now, going into Game Week 9, this is where we have some options. There is one defender that I think is missing from this team. No, it's not Tarkowski. I'm not a big fan of Tarkowski for the wildcard pick. Look, I definitely see the appeal, but I don't think he is for me. I don't think the fixtures are good enough for a defender. For Everton, I think you'll bench Tarkowski quite frequently if you do have him. And I don't really see much attacking threat there either. Even against West Ham, he's not really the player who's getting on the end of set pieces. But there is one defender who I do really like, and that is Anderson. Now, from Game Week 10, Anderson, that's when his fixtures turn really nice. He starting off with Wolves at home. So my idea is from Game Week 10, so moving to Game Week 10, I'd be looking to sub out Romero. Well, not sub out, but obviously transfer out Anderson, Romero to Anderson. And that means I will be removing a Spurs defender when their fixtures turn pretty rough from Game Week from Game Week 10 onwards, where they play Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal, and replacing with Anderson, where he plays Wolves, Everton, Sunderland at home, which is pretty nice there. So that's a nice, interesting move. One thing to note in my team in particular is that I will actually have 3 free transfers in Game Week 7, so I can afford to, make the odd move later down the line. And I really do love the idea of, basically dovetailing a Romero into an Anderson into Game Week 10. So that is something that I'm definitely planning on doing. And all of my other free transfers, I can either save them or make big moves for the likes of Palmer if he becomes available, or if there's any other major player that is missing. Maybe I desperately need Salah back. I'm going to have loads of free transfers to be able to make those moves. But certainly when we get, let's just go through Game Week 11, team maybe looks something a little bit like this. And Game Week 12, maybe something a little bit like this. Game Week 13 is probably where I want to make the biggest changes, and it's going to be the likes of Gabriel out to Virgil. We want to get some Liverpool players in at this point. I don't know how many free transfers I'll have at this point, but hopefully quite a lot. But if at this point I could bring in Virgil, it means I can bench Anderson for his away game against Spurs and still make sure I have him for the other good fixtures. So a nice little defensive transfer there as well, getting in Virgil. And there will be other transfers by this point. This won't be exactly what my team looks like. But in terms of those planned transfers, that is another one I'm really looking at right now. Raya will stay in for the long term. And then we think, okay, who else do we want? Can we go for Isak at this point? Well, technically, right now, I would be able to afford Gyökeres to Isak. Depending on price changes, that may change by the time we get to Game Week 13. But if Isak is looking really good at that point, and I want him for his fixtures sort of from Game Week 13 onwards, where Liverpool do look really good, I can make that nice switch, easy switch, from the Arsenal, the Arsenal defender and attacker to the Liverpool defender and attacker like that. Or if I don't want to go for Isak, maybe I can find a way of getting Salah. It's probably going to take multiple transfer moves to do that, but it's going to be like Gyökeres, Fernandes out, Salah will come in. Probably not going to be able to find a forward for 5 million, so maybe we drop that down all the way. I will have used my bench boost. So do we drop all the way down to like a Mark Q and just bank the rest of the cash? Something like this, make the transfer, and maybe play with either a 4-4-2 or maybe a 3-5-2 in some game weeks as well, and we could do something like that. So there's definitely different options. This is a very flexible team, particularly when we look at game week 13, which I think the biggest disadvantage of wildcarding in a game week 6 now is that you won't be able to make those quick changes in game week 13. But if you can save enough transfers and you can have some ideas on how you can move players into certain directions, then certainly I really, really like the idea of going with some Arsenal players with the idea of moving them onto some Liverpool players later down the line, as well as some of those other minor tweaks that we made to the likes of Romero to Anderson. And obviously, there will be injuries, there will be suspensions, there will be new hyped players that you have to get on. We will come to them as they come. We can't predict them necessarily, but outside of that, I think this plan looks really, really strong. And, you know, I'm not worried about my FPL season at all because the plan is strong. And I think that's so important. If you've got a strong plan, you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, then that's most of the battle with FPL, to be honest. The rest of it is just down to luck and hoping for the best. And we certainly will be hoping for the best. But like I say, guys, if you want to check out Fantasy Football Hub, make sure you use the link in the description. You'll get access to this tool, the Opta Stats, and many more amazing FPL tools designed to help you become a fantastic FPL manager. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you do drop a like. Do subscribe if you want to win that copy of FC26. I'll be back tomorrow for another video, but if you can't wait until then, plenty more videos on the FPL Mate channel for Game Week 6. Go check them out. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.